Hi everyone. First of all, thank you very much for the questions that were sent in. I'll do my best to answer them to the best of my knowledge. So we'll just get started here. The first question was football the job you wanted to do when you were a child? I'd be lying if I said no. I think every kid that plays football wants to be professional at some stage. You watch it on TV and you always aspire to be that at some point when you're a bit older. Next question: Did you have any? Did you have to pass any exams at school to become a professional footballer? No, no is the answer to that. You don't. There's no exams for that specifically. However, I did try my hardest at school because you can't just rely on the game itself. So I always made sure that I studied really hard to just in case football didn't work out for me. Plus, also when I finished playing, I have to think about what I wanted to do as well. So, next question: when you were growing up, who was your idol and why? I had a couple. Diego Maradona was one. It was my first World Cup I watched in 1986. And he was just amazing, amazing player. Obviously, you'll be aware of who Diego Maradona is. But I also had Brian Robson, who was the captain of Manchester United at the time as well. So I had a couple of good idols there. And what did you do well in at school? Obviously, PE was good for me, but I stuck at it. Did being a sports person, you're very competitive. So I was always competitive in everything I did, even if it wasn't my best subject. I was always tried my best, and ended up with 5 hires, which you will be coming into when you get into the secondary school. So I did well enough to go on to university if I wanted to do that. But luckily, I was able to play football for a living. My early football career. So a few questions here. How old were you when you first started playing football? So I moved over from Canada to England when I was 7 years old, and that's kind of really when I started playing, to be honest. I don't remember really playing back in Canada. So but once I moved over, obviously I was surrounded by the game, so it all really kind of kicked off for me then. What was the first club that I played for? So the first professional club was Inverness Caledonian Thistle. I got signed I played for Nairn County in the Highland League for 1 year. It was just when I was 16, so I was kind of thrown in at the deep end, which was quite an experience. But it allowed me to sort of get spotted by Cali Thistle, so it had its purpose. And it was good to be able to have that experience. Another question: how exciting was it when you signed your first professional contract? So obviously this was it was very, very exciting for me. Worked hard, and it's all I ever wanted to do. So when you get that opportunity to come, I was absolutely delighted to sign it, and to see or to have my career kick off from there. Moving on to Cali Thistle, there's a question: how did you and the rest of the Cali team celebrate when you beat Celtic? So I have a really boring answer, unfortunately, because I had to fly out to Los Angeles the next morning for the Gold Cup tournament with Canada. So I actually didn't get to celebrate with anyone. I was stuck in a hotel room watching the highlights back. So I wish I had a better story to tell, but I don't. Moving on to the international front, who would you support if Scotland played Canada in a game? I'm going to have to say I would like to see a score draw, so it's the fans at least enjoy the game, but both teams get something out of it, I think is a fair answer. How much did it mean to you to have won the 2000 CONCACAF Gold Cup, and how did you celebrate that? So obviously it's the biggest biggest result that for Canada and obviously for myself as well. That's the equivalent of our European Championships. So over here, so it was a huge tournament, and to be able to have won that was a massive, massive celebration. Let's say in Canada itself, to be able to do that was a huge upset. We weren't expected to do it at all, but we did. And unfortunately, again, I don't have a great celebration story because I had to get on a night flight back to Aberdeen so that I could play in the Scottish Cup replay against Aberdeen. So I wasn't able to stay. I was there for maybe 3 hours and then I had to leave on an overnight flight. So I don't even have another good celebration story in that capacity, I'm afraid. So I'm just looking at some of the other questions that are here. I think they are more general questions. So, what was your favourite football club when you that you played for? So, it's quite a tough one because I obviously had really good memories at Cali and even when I went down to Hamilton. But I think when I played in Austria, I really enjoyed that. I think it was really, really professional. Everything was taken care of, and was able to play Champions League qualifying, Europa League, and it was a really good league, to be honest. So I really enjoyed it there. How many goals have you scored in your career, and what was your favourite goal? So I didn't score many. I was a defender, hardly crossed the halfway line. I think I scored maybe 6 in my career, but by far the favourite goal is my goal for Canada that helped us on the way. Back then it was the golden goal. It wasn't around too long, the golden goal. It just meant that if you scored, the game was over. So that had to be the most amazing goal and feeling that I've ever had. Probably the most important goal that Canada's ever scored. So I was lucky enough to be that person. If you get the chance, go look on YouTube, Richard Hastings golden goal. You'll see me celebrating on that. Do you prefer the word soccer or football? Definitely football. Definitely football. It's an easy answer. What was your favourite team to play for when you were playing football? So I think I've answered that one already. What team do you support? So I'm a huge Manchester United fan. Always have been since I moved over. What was your highlight of your football career? So I think I've touched on that as well. Certainly that whole month of February 2000 was the best month of my career because we beat Celtic, and then obviously I flew out to Los Angeles to win the Gold Cup with Canada. So that was definitely the highlight, the best month of my career. Another tricky question: who was your best manager? So that's another tricky one because you always take something from each person. But certainly one of the earlier managers I had was Steve Patterson, who, again, I was just a young player, but he kind of gave you a lot of freedom and confidence to just go and play and go and express yourself. So I took a lot from Steve there, and as well as Craig Brewster, who became a player. The next question we have, who was the best player you played with and against? So players played with, probably 2 to pick out really would be when I was at Hamilton and played with James McArthur, who's a Scotland international, who now has been down at Crystal Palace. So he's played down there for a number of years now. But he was a very good young player at the time, and he's gone on to have an excellent career. And also probably pick a Canadian teammate by the name of Atiba Hutchinson, who plays for Fenerbahce Besiktas. He plays for in Turkey. So again, really good player technically, and just runs the game. So both players probably my two that I played with are the best. Against being a defender, you always have to come up against the best players. I've been fortunate that I've come up against the likes of Sergio Aguero, Luis Figo when I played against Real Madrid. But I think the best of the bunch would be Zinedine Zidane by far. I think just to be on the same pitch as him was amazing. So very fortunate that to have been able to do that. So I definitely have to say it would be him. What was it like moving clubs? How did your old and new teammates react? Yeah, I think football is you move a lot, especially even more nowadays. So it's not too bad in terms of new teammates. They react well when they see you play, and then they see that you're going to be a good player for them to join them. So they're quite happy. Your old teammates, I don't really know. I think sometimes they maybe are happy that you've got to move and things like that. So, but yeah, you just move on. Time moves on, and I think the most difficult part of moving clubs is it's not the football. It's the moving house and all the things, and moving your family. That becomes the most trickiest part. But the actual football is the easiest aspect. When you were having a low point in your career, if you had one, how did you pick yourself up? So there was many low points. I have to be honest, many low points when you're out of the team, or you've got injuries, or the manager doesn't want to play you. So there's a lot of times, but you just have to constantly believe in yourself. You don't become a bad player overnight, and it's just a moment in your career. So you just have to dig deep and fight for what you know that you're able to do. So, and that's not just football. I think in every walk of life, no matter what job you do, you're going to have difficult times, but you just have to keep believing in yourself, and you'll come out on top. When you played for Scotland, did you find it hard to change the culture, food, etc.? So I kind of grew up in Scotland, I have to be honest. So the food, the culture, I'm used to that. What I would say is when I did move abroad, so Austria and Holland, that was obviously trickier because different cultures over there. But I really enjoyed it. I think it's important when you go to another country that you do and immerse yourself as much as you can into their culture. So I always I learned German, I learned Dutch. So I could be able to communicate in those countries, as well as try to eat and drink what they ate as well. So and drank. So it was good. How hard did you train to be a footballer? So people always say, "Oh, how did you get so good at that?" Well, the answer is thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of practice. And I think that's there's not enough value that we can put on that. Just getting out and kicking the ball when you're just young kids like you are. It's just I used to come home, throw my bag in the house, grab a ball, go back out, and you would stay out until you were called in for dinner. That's just you just constantly worked as hard as you can, and then when you become a full-time professional, you need to keep working hard, and that's the part that people don't really see is the hard running that we need to do. I think they just see the little 5v2 boxes that we a bit of fun. So there is a lot of hard work that goes into that. So I'm just going to have a look at a few more questions here. I've answered that one. What happens on a typical training session for you? So, yeah, typical session, everyone gets in, you get warmed up together, probably 10-15 minutes of make sure your body's warmed up, and then you'll go into sort of some passing exercises, into some keeping the ball off each other, so that's possession, and maybe get some crossing and finishing, so shooting, things like that, and then you'll be finished with a game. That's kind of like a standard session that lasts anywhere from an hour and a half to 2 hours. So, but it's full on. You need to work hard. Is sleep a big factor in your life and for your training? Yes, absolutely. I think you don't work many hours in the day, but the hours you do work are very intense. So you need your sleep so that you can be ready to go again the next day. Do you follow a specific nutrition plan? If so, what is it? So really, you get educated in if on what you can eat. Lots of pasta and chicken, rice, cereals, things like that. So, and lots of fruit and vegetables, obviously. So I was quite dedicated in that respect. So